Welcome to the Blindian Brown Girls podcast, where we explore life, love, and the beautiful blend of cultures. I'm Aumatma, a holistic fertility doctor.
And I'm Tanya, an intercultural relationship coach. Join us for candid conversations where we share our unique perspectives and stories about growing up as children of immigrants, navigating mixed-race relationships and motherhood, entrepreneurship, money, and so much more.
Get ready for real and raw discussions as we dive into the intersections of our lives, relationships, and our diverse experiences. Welcome back, everybody. We are so excited for another episode of whatever this is going to be called, because full disclosure, we don't know.
But we don't know yet. Maybe you guys can help us choose.
That would be fun, huh? Okay, we might. Well, we'll have to choose it before we can go on Apple and all that.
Oh,
so.
That's true. Okay. Yeah. Well, it was a nice. We wanted you guys.
We want. Yes, you can. Maybe they can help us on Instagram or something. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll make it happen.
True that.
So we realized that we never really introduced ourselves, like what our names are. So hi, I'm Aumatma, and my background is as a naturopathic doctor. I have many, many, many years of experience. Please don't ask how many, because that makes me very old. And I am in a Blindian relationship. I have a 5-year-old child. And what else? Basics. Oh, yeah. I live in Houston, Texas. Texas! I'm a Texan, y'all.
What's up, everybody? I am Tanya. So I, too, am in a Blindian relationship. Have been, if you guys caught the last episode, for 27 years, not in the same relationship. That would be her. But I do work with couples in relationships. I work with couples in intercultural relationships. So that goes beyond interracial and interethnic or interfaith to all sorts of intercultural relationships. And I have 2 children, a 12-year-old son who will be 12 on Monday, and a 4-year-old daughter. And then I also have 4 stepkids. So I have everything from the youngest is 19 and the oldest is 26.
Wow.
So yeah.
4 bonus children.
4 bonus children. We'll dive in, I'm sure, to some of, the story around them, because I don't have a relationship anymore with my eldest stepdaughter, who I still consider my stepdaughter, largely because of my ex-husband. I don't have much of a relationship with my one of my stepsons, from my son's father, so from my ex-husband. But my son and him are really, really close. So it's challenging. Yeah,
that's super complicated.
It is complicated, and it's stuff that we need to be talking about, right? Yeah. And these are the things that I help my couples with, because we don't. There's not a lot of places to get resource around these types of dynamics, right? Especially in our culture, right? In more Western culture, more Western families, you hear these stories more commonly. It is not as secret, hush hush, we don't sweep it under the rug. People are more apt to talk about it. But coming from the background that I came from, I had no exposure to this stuff, right? So I really had to learn as I was in it. And it's been a ride.
Yeah, I agree. I am putting the pieces together. We also are divorcees, which is really uncommon in the Indian culture for sure.
Yep. Divorcees.
It sounds cooler, doesn't it? So I think I feel like we have a lot of overlaps and commonalities, which are really interesting because we grew up so differently and we have lived so differently. So I wanted to ask you today.
Okay.
How did you get into the work that you do now? Because you have a completely different, where you started and where you are today and what you're doing.
Yeah, I definitely do. And I forget that it's so vastly different what I do now from what I did for almost 20 years. So I started my career in fashion. I knew since I was a little girl little Indian girl reading Vogue magazine in 1988.
Oh my God, I can see that.
I was just enthralled by them. I was amazed. I was blown away by fashion and magazines and all that stuff. And I just knew that that's where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
I had no idea how I was going to get there.
Mhm.
No idea. So when I was a teenager, one of my high school friends and I used to go into Holt Renfrew, which is sort of like the Saks of Canada. And I just used to look at this stuff and I just wanted to be close to it. I just wanted to touch it. I just wanted to be close to it. And funny enough, so I went to business school. You know, I wasn't gonna be a doctor or a lawyer. I'm not that type of Indian girl. And you know, I went to business school and I went to a top business school in Canada. And I was also not the girl that was, trading livestocks in our whatever place that does that. You see, that was never meant for me.
What is that?
The live trading room that we had or whatever it was. All my friends have gone on to be very successful in finance and so on. Clearly that wasn't for me.
Okay.
I was more concerned about, marketing. Like for me, it was marketing. It was like those types of things. So I knew that business school was useful, graduated business school with a degree in marketing and economics. And at the same time that I was graduating, I decided to apply to fashion school in New York. And I applied to FIT. I got in. I found an apartment in Brooklyn, and then I told my parents that I was going to move to New York. So I graduated business school in Toronto, and literally a month later, I landed in Brooklyn. And what's amazing is that my mom is the one who got me my first internship. So a colleague of hers was best friends with an account executive at Giorgio Armani.
Wow.
And she knew, like, at that point, my parents had no idea what the hell fashion was, what I was going to do. Like, was I going to work in a store forever? Like, what was this thing? But, I think they also realized that they had raised me to pursue my passion and follow, my dreams. So my dream just happened to be different than theirs. Yeah. So
and it's literally no surprise that you ended up doing what you're so excited about doing.
Exactly. So, my mom hooked it up and I ended up getting an internship at Armani, which ended up as a job at Armani. And I started my career in luxury, which, if you come from the world of fashion, you know that it is very hard to get into the luxury sort of part of it. And I knew that that's where I wanted to be. It was just what resonated for me. And I started my career at Armani. I couldn't have asked for more. And so I did that, for years. I worked for Armani. I worked mostly for Italian companies, spent a lot of time traveling, spent a lot of time, Milan, Paris, New York fashion weeks, and did the things. I did stuff with celebrities. I did a lot of stuff in fashion. But I was starting to get burnt out. There was a lot of travel involved. I had a young son at the time. My ex-husband was also he was in the entertainment industry. We were living a very New York sort of life, and it was exhausting, and it's not what it looks like from the outside, right? Like it is not. And I was spending a lot of time on planes or at home, and there was nothing in between, because the time that I was on the plane, I was feeling guilty for not being at home. And then I'm at home trying to compensate for the time that I was on the plane. And it was just never enough. And I was just getting burnt out. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. Not on this level. Yeah. So I went to an American company and I worked in luxury accessories for a while. And I did some amazing things. I did like Beyonce's Coachella performance. And we did some really cool things. But I had a really toxic work environment. And in 2018, in June 2018, I was let go from my job. And it was largely because my boss, who was the CEO and founder of the company, and I, who was the vice president, had very differing visions of how to grow and build the company. And, again, it was a very toxic environment. I was just barely holding on. I knew I wanted to do something else. I knew I wanted to work in wellness. I just didn't know how to get out of the trap of the paycheck.
Yeah.
And we were talking about living in these expensive cities. How do you leave what you have
Yeah.
come to know as your norm, right? Who's paying the mortgage? Who's right? So I felt really stuck.
Mhm.
And so when I lost my job, I was like, well, this is my kick in the ass. Like I
Mhm.
had been ideating on how I was gonna, what I was gonna do in
Yeah.
wellness.
Yeah.
And simultaneously, my ex-husband and I were separated. And he ended up leaving the house 6 weeks after I got let go from my job.
Oh.
And so I went through an entire personal identity shift, right? I
Mhm.
had lost everything that I had known to be associated with my identity because we identify with what we do for a living. We identify with our marital status. So
Sure. Yeah.
I was a fashion executive. I was a wife. I was a mother. And now I was a single mother all of a
Mhm.
sudden. I was none of the rest of the things. I was just a single mother. And I was like, what the fuck?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I looked at it as an opportunity and I was like, you know what? I have the fortune. Like this is such a blessing. I get to rebuild my life in whatever way
Mhm.
I want.
Mhm.
And so long story short, I knew I wanted to serve women. I knew I wanted to be in wellness. I knew that I had a whole lot of life experience that I could share and a whole lot of life lessons that I had learned and a whole lot of studying and research. I had always been into mindfulness and wellness and personal development just very privately. It was just not something that I shared a lot. I didn't even really share it with my friends. But that's why I was able to navigate through that disaster that I went through where everything fell down. I was fine. And people couldn't understand why I
Mm.
was fine. And people were not fine hearing what I was going through. And I'm
Right.
like, but I'm fine.
Yeah.
And people couldn't understand how I was fine.
Right.
And I was like, okay, well, I think I can help you be fine too. Like if I'm
Wow.
okay given what I'm going through and you're not fine, not to compare, but like your whole life hasn't crumbled right now. I think I can help you. So I went and I became certified as a life coach. I knew I wasn't going to go back to school in a sort of traditional, that's just not who I am. I wasn't
Right.
going to become a therapist or like at that point. So I got certified as a life coach, started working with women of color. I wanted to work specifically with people of color. I wanted to work with women. Started working with women of color and realized that the two things that they were all stressed out about, complaining about, felt stuck around were their relationships and their jobs, their
Mhm.
careers, right?
Mhm.
And the relationship part also pertained to parenting if there were parents, children involved,
Mhm.
external, sort of extended family and so on. And so it was starting to become evident that there's particular support that women need that they're not getting.
Mhm.
And simultaneously, I shared my personal story on a platform on Instagram called Blindian Project.
Mm.
And in that story, I shared my personal story, but also that I was a life coach. And I think I received about 100 DMs from women from literally all over the
Mhm.
world saying, "Oh my God, can you help me?
Yeah.
Like I am living in secrecy. I haven't told my parents about my Black partner. I have been in this relationship for 7 years and I don't know what to do. I feel stuck. My partner's, going to leave me because he's like tired because we're not progressing. My parents have threatened to abandon me." Like I was just like, this is still happening.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it. And so I put together a program for South Asian women who are in partnership in a relationship with a Black partner. And I did that work with the women. I did about 4 cohorts of that, and then recognized that they were all wanting to come back as a couple, because what had happened is that they were paying so much attention to what was going on externally that they were forgetting to pay attention to the internal dynamic,
Mhm.
and their
Yeah.
relationships were falling apart.
Mm.
And their relationships had so much impact
Mhm.
from all of these different
Sure.
factors and
Yeah.
nuances, right? That we go through as mixed race couples or couples who have to navigate different cultures. And that is literally how I started working with couples. So it
Wow.
was just like that sort of organic process to get here.
Mhm.
And that's now
Mhm.
what I do. Work with couples
Wow.
and intercultural relations.
That's pretty incredible. Like, that's a amazing journey that you've been on, and, like, I can see, like, little hints of serendipity or, like, that magical moment. It happened in fashion, it happened again with the relationship stuff, and just kind of, like, catapulting you into the next place that
Mhm.
was calling you. which is like so beautiful to just to hear about. And like I feel like we often all are having these moments, and sometimes we're just not listening.
Absolutely.
And then it all like kind of crashes, and then you're like, oh crap, I guess I better start listening.
Yeah, or we don't, right? And I think that that's the cause of so many people's stuckness, is that they actually don't listen. Because I think, we're often, so many of us are taught that, or conditioned to believe that that type of change is not possible or available to us, or it's too risky, or we're not going to be successful. And the truth is, no, you're not going to be successful right away. Success takes time in everything, right? Like,
Absolutely.
there's a learning curve. But if you're willing to put in the work, as you were in the first thing that you did, then the success will come. It's inevitable, right? But you have to be willing to humble yourself, really, and learn again. And for me, I was ready to learn again. I was ready to, like, really, my brain was feeling sort of stagnant, and I decided that it was my obligation to do something different, to change the narrative, to not stay stuck.
Yeah.
Right. And I think so many people don't feel like they have that available to them. There's so much safety in the comfort of knowing, that they have a stable job or whatever. But what I always like to say to my clients is that you're actually very uncomfortable in your comfort zone, right? Like, that we don't address the level of discomfort that we're actually feeling while we're in our comfort zone.
Absolutely.
And I'd rather be uncomfortable outside of my comfort zone, doing something different and trying something new, something that's actually activating me in some way, than staying uncomfortable in my comfort zone, being miserable because I know how miserable it is. It's like compounded misery when you're in your comfort zone.
Like, right, because you don't like, you're like, well, I should be fine, and I should feel grateful, and I should be happy, and
There's
I
so
should,
much
should.
Yeah.
But like, are you really? And
And
it's
like,
not the
who
right.
said you should? You know what I mean? And like, are you saying that for yourself?
Yeah.
Do you really believe that? How comfortable are you? Are you really happy? Are you forcing yourself to be happy because you think that you're supposed to be happy? Like, it's endless.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it also lends to this conversation around parenting and schooling, and our school system just being kind of programming children into some mold. And when they don't fit into that mold, it's problematic.
Yeah.
Right? But not everyone is meant to fit into that mold.
At all. At all. It's so interesting that you bring that up, because I felt that way for, as long as my son has been in school so far. Before we moved to Texas, he was always in private school and in these very progressive schools, and it didn't really serve him, which was interesting for me, because I had this vision of, we don't always all fit into a mold, and we shouldn't be able to express ourselves however. And I believed that because I needed that. I needed that level of expression as a child. I needed someone to be like, you don't need to be in the box.
Yeah.
I was not a kid who was going to fit into any box. Like, it appeared that I did a really good job of pretending.
Yeah.
And it looked good on paper, but I was dying on the inside, right? And I didn't want that for myself.
Yeah.
Turns out that he needs the mold.
He's like, where's the mold?
Yeah, it's just such a mind trip. It's been a mind trip.
Yeah.
And something that I never thought, so it's so dependent on who you are, right?
Yeah.
And what your particular needs are, what your particular sort of like core skill set is, what you need to work on and build on and learn and develop. So
yeah. There's so much truth to that. Like, we just need to individualize everything. And I feel like medicine has definitely went down that path of, like, here are all the molds that people can fit into, quote unquote, labels or diagnoses. And then there's the whole, like, actually that diagnosis doesn't mean anything when you like really truly break it down and like what's going on under the surface. And I feel like we're on that trajectory in so many different avenues like schooling or even a lot of my passion right now is around exploring the masculine and feminine. So like the molds around that, it's I feel like there are many molds that we as humans, whatever, on this planet are like playing around with and exploring. And simultaneously, there are going to be the people that are like, no, actually, that mold works great. And they're going to keep the molds alive. And that's okay too. Like, I think there's space for all of it. We just have to like take a step back and say, okay, that's great for some of us. And for others of us, it's really not working. And how do we recognize it? How do we like analyze or test for it in some way and then be able to like support them in breaking out of the mold?
I feel like younger people are doing that. Like, I think that there's just less tolerance for those boxes or those molds now. Like, people are really resisting, right?
It's like gender identity, sexual identity, like everything
identity
is
even,
up
right?
for
People are like, I don't want to have to list my ethnic or racial backgrounds. People are like, well, race is a construct of society, and I mean, it is. And so, what is race? Like, I mean, I love the conversations that are happening right now. But yeah, there are inevitably going to be people who support the mold, or people like my son who do better in some kind of structure or some kind of system because he needs that for, I don't know, whatever kind of guidance for him, the way he operates, right? So, yeah, I think we need all of it. Before, I think there was just only one way, right? Absolutely. And we were all supposed to fit into that one way.
Right.
And clearly that wasn't working. And, you know, people's anxiety is through the roof. People's physical ailments are through the roof. I mean, people are responding in so many different ways. Look at the way, you know, even just, I feel like obesity has something to do with it. Like just the way people are coping with dissatisfaction, with not being able to fit into a particular standard, the one standard that's available. People are a disaster over it. I feel like that's opening up now.
Yeah.
You know, there are different ways of living, different accepted ways of being. We're still far from full acceptance, but I feel like at least it's changing.
It's definitely changing from when we were children. So that's us.
I can't even imagine. Like we were children. Like, when was that?
I feel like I remember it pretty distinctly, but only like the general ideas, right? Like specific things I couldn't tell you. But anyway, I wanted to know like how did you meet your current partner? How did you guys end up in a relationship?
So we met on Tinder. And it's a funny story.
Another thing we have in common. What a surprise!
We just recently learned that too. Yeah, it works, guys. It works. Who knew? Who knew? I was on Tinder for 6 days total. So I was asleep. It was Christmas time. I was, you know, separated this time, not fully divorced, but separated. And, you know, usually when you're separated, you've been checked out for a long time already, right? You are ready mentally to move on.
Definitely get
well beyond what other people think, right? Because you're the one in the experience. So I was asleep. I woke up to a full profile created with pictures and everything. And they were like, you're going to do this. And I was like,
your friend?
Okay, my friend and my cousin. And I said, okay, I will try it out. And 6 days later, I met Ty, well, on Tinder. And then we met maybe a couple weeks later, and here we
are in Houston, with a child
in Houston, Texas,
with all the way across the country.
We went very far from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So we lived like 10 minutes away from each other in Brooklyn, 15 minutes away from each other in Brooklyn, and we have had a baby, and we integrated families and lives, and you know we were older. We had both been there, done that before. He had 2 older kids, sons. I had 1 son. We were like, when we found out we were pregnant, we were like, please God, make
it a girl,
please. Like, if we can do this again, let it be different. At least let us have a new experience. and we got blessed with our daughter. But yeah, that's how we met on Tinder. What's your Tinder story?
Oh gosh. So I was on Tinder. I had recently separated from my ex-husband. He was like, I think when I got on Tinder, he was still actually like still in the house with me. So that was
That's
fun.
awkward.
And it was probably like 3 or 4 weeks. It wasn't a long time that he was still in the house, but I had put myself on Tinder. Funny thing is like it was new enough that it still had that stigma around it, which I had no idea about. Like I had been not in a like dating mode for at least 10 years at that point. So like online dating, what was that?
Yeah.
So anyway, I was like, I looked up dating.
Doesn't Tinder still have that
It
stigma?
sort of does. I think it's like faded a little bit.
Has it? I have no idea.
I haven't heard like as much buzz around Tinder lately.
I don't hear, maybe because now I'm
Yeah, you're off the market.
Yeah, like that didn't last long. So I don't know.
I don't know. But anyway, so it had a little bit of stigma. I was at a party, one of my friends comes up to me and he's like, "Yo, I got to talk to you." And I was like, "Okay, what's up?" And he's like, "No, like let's go over here." And I was like, "Okay." And this is like a relatively good friend. Not like super close, but like decent, like not an acquaintance, right? And he was like, "I saw you on Tinder. What are you doing on Tinder?" And I was like, "I don't know, like dating? What the hell are you doing, married man, on Tinder?"
Oh
Yeah.
shit.
So I kind
You
of
left
like
out
totally
that
called it
detail.
out. Yeah. So he was like, "No, no, no. I'm not on it. My friend was scrolling and I saw your photo and I didn't say anything to him. But like, what the hell? What's up with you?" And I was like, "You're acting like I've lost my marbles. Like, what's up? Like, it's not a big deal. It's a dating app." And he's like, "No, this is not a dating app. This is actually like a hookup app." And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, that explains the shitty experiences I've been having. Thank you very much. I will be approaching this very differently."
Do you remember what year this was?
This was like I want to say like 2013, because we think that we met in 2013. And we think we've been together for 10 years. We do not remember how long we've been in a relationship.
That is
we didn't like bookmark the date. We don't literally like know. But we think it's been about 10 years.
As a relationship coach, I will say I kind of love that. I can't stand when people ascribe so much value to the amount of time that they've been together.
Mm-hmm.
Are we talking about quality? Are we like looking at the quality
right.
of the time?
Oh, like we've been together for 20 years.
Yeah. Like
it's great.
When we
great
don't
if
know,
you're still in love.
Yeah, and listen, exactly. Only if you're forget love. Do you like can you stand being in the same room as them? Because many times the answer to that question is no.
Yeah.
Right? So then I don't care how long you've been together. I love that you don't know, because that means that the time doesn't matter, right? And time is just going by and you still here. That's all that matters.
Yeah. And in so many ways, like after my friend calling me out, I was like, "Oh, everything makes perfect sense now. Like, why didn't anybody tell me? Thank you so much, buddy. Like, we good." And he was like, "I'm so confused." And I was like, "No, I'm gonna hack the shit out of this Tinder." So I basically I was like, "Oh, it's a hookup app." And like literally swipe right, swipe left, the whole thing. And I was like, "Oh, so people pretty much probably don't read profiles." So I used up every single letter that you could use on that profile. And it was like so long.
I don't think people have profiles on Tinder.
So long. It was
like name, age,
and
I got a job.
Yes, yeah. And so it was like already off the bat, like kind of weird. And then and then I created a rule for myself. Like if they didn't have a profile, it was a direct left.
Okay.
And I went through like so many people that way, and I was like, left, 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 left. And I was like, oh, this is great. I don't have to go on shitty dates. I don't have to be catfished. Like, this is good. Right? Like, we're moving in the right direction. Yeah. And then I landed on my husband's profile, and he had like the relatively lamest picture ever, which I still remember. It's like my least favorite shirt of his.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
It's like bright checkers. It's really like in your face, loud. Like, oh, I hate that shirt so much. He knows. He knows. This is not new. And then the second picture, like you scroll the photos and it's a watch. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? And then
I'm curious too.
There's no profile. Not a word. Nothing. Like, it says nothing. Not even like, check out my new Rolex. I don't know what watch it was, but like, check out my new watch. Nothing. And I was like,
so there's
no context super materialistic. Is he weird? Like, I was just very confused. And like, you might know me by now, like, I'm very spirit led. And something told me to not swipe left. Like, over and over again, the voice in my head or whatever was swipe right, swipe right, swipe right. And so for like weeks, I kept going back to the profile because you can't do anything else.
Yeah.
You load up the profile, it's the same damn person for weeks.
Still there.
Still there. Make a decision, lose them forever, make a different decision, connect.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, why is this so hard? And then I finally like swiped right, and instantly this man was like, hi, how's it going? And I'm like, good. Like, who are you? Are you single? I don't know what's happening. And then it pretty quickly he was like, oh, I love your profile. I'm like, oh yeah, what about it? What about it do you love?
He's like, I love that you have one.
Deep in the profile is mixed, like, I'm vegan. I like literally everything, right? Like, everything you need to know about me is in this fucking profile. And he had to have read the profile. Like, there was no way he was reading it this quickly. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe we should ask him what was actually going on.
What was happening?
But he could like tell me stuff that was in my profile that wasn't like right at the top, the first sentence. So I was like, okay, this man read my profile, which is odd. And then for weeks, like, proceeded to talk to me for hours. Like, we would have these 4 or 5 hour long conversations daily.
I love that.
And I was like, who are you? And we just like talk and talk and talk and talk. But there was like no action, right? And I was like, so finally, like, weeks have gone by of talking, and I was like, I really love talking to you, but are we gonna meet in person, or is this just like you want to be my best friend?
That's like the opposite of what most people get on
right,
Tinder.
exactly. So I'm like, what's happening here?
I thought this was a hookup app. What is up?
Right. So we would just like talk. And then finally it's like it was pouring cats and dogs outside on this Thursday afternoon, the date of which I do not know. And I was like, well, it's raining. Like, I don't know. It's a lame day. I don't really have anything to do. I was like, yo, why don't you just come over? You're only like 10 minutes away. To my house. Yes.
Okay.
And at this point, I felt like I knew him really well.
Okay.
Right?
Yes, you've been talking, but still.
Yes, very
don't recommend that, but okay.
We are not giving professional advice. We just saying this is what happened.
I'm like, don't do this at home. This is a disclaimer at the bottom.
Not to be followed. Bad advice.
Not bad advice. Relationship coach. Do not do this for your relationship.
So
apparently it worked out.
It worked out. He came over. Oh my God, I could tell you like all the details, but so it's raining. I'm on this call.
You were on a call and you asked the man to come over?
I was like, oh yeah, come over around 11, which is when my call was supposed to end, and it went late. So I'm still on the call, and he's always early. Right? I don't know that, but he's always early. For him, on time is late.
Got it.
So he was like showing up 15 minutes early. And I was like,
do you come early to a date though? I'm not sure that you do that at someone's house. I'm not sure. We gotta talk to him about that. I'm not sure that that's part of the protocol.
Yo, I don't know. And to be fair, maybe he wasn't like super early. He was like right on the dot, which to me is still early because I'm forever late.
And you're like,
I'm literally forever late.
My house at 11. I meant my call to be done at 11. I need about 15 extra minutes to decompress.
Yeah, like
another cup
I didn't think you were
coffee.
gonna come on time, dude. So anyway, so he is like literally our house was a split level house, so you can go up or down, or you have the foyer, which is tiny. And he like stood there for 15 minutes till my call ended. Cause I'm sitting there like, just come on in, it's okay. And he was just like, I'm good. I'm staying right here.
How awkward.
So I'm like trying to wrap up this call, and this woman was just like, "Da, da, 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 da." I was like, I gotta go. I gotta go. Your time's up. Like, I gotta go. And then he like I hung up. I was like, "Hi, welcome. You know, like you could have come in. It's okay." He's like, "How do you know I'm not a serial killer?" I'm like, "I don't know, because I've been talking to you for weeks. I think I know you, but yeah, I guess you could have been. We good. I'm still alive."
Apparently, you're still alive. You're right beside me.
So that was our first date.
Wow.
And here we are 10 something years later.
Also in Texas.
In Texas.
Wow, 10 years later, we don't know how long exactly, both off of Tinder. It's it's such a interesting thing to have been older and met your partner. You're married, I am not married, but whatever, partner, off of a dating app when we've both been married before, where dating apps weren't even a thing. Like it's just
it's such a weird
it is a weird phenomenon.
stage of life.
Yeah, it totally is.
Yeah.
It totally is. I forget, that's how we met. It doesn't feel it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't feel like an odd way to have met somebody. It feels very organic. I guess it really depends on who you are, right? Like I'm not a dating coach. Like dating coaches, like I'm like, okay,
oh yeah, that's
very different. That's a whole different dynamic. If I was gonna date again, I would be like, I'd be curious. Like, how does this all work? Like with the way things are now, because I feel like people feel like they have like infinite choice. Yeah. Right. Like they're not really. I don't know. I don't know that people are operating the same way anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know from the inside, but I definitely, even when just before meeting my now husband, I feel like it was there was this feeling of there's so many people out there, right? Like, and I could travel. I was traveling a lot, like at least once a month for a conference or something. So once a month, I was going to a different city. And I was like, "Oh, what's up in the Tinder app? What's happening?" So, like, there literally the feeling of like the world is your oyster.
Yeah,
there are so many people there. You could meet anyone anywhere.
That's a really interesting perspective. It's true though, and it's true because you literally can.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It just gives you so much more access to people in I guess what people feel is more vetted way, right? Rather than just like meeting someone cold at a club or at a lounge or at a restaurant or whatever out. Right? Because that's what we used to do, right?
Yeah.
Like
but like how many people I have never actually met anyone quality through that route. Like clubs, bars, that scene. Like I did that a lot in college. It was a massive fail for me.
Yeah, I definitely met decent people that way. I would say that's not that's probably, the minority and not the
Yeah.
majority for sure. Like, that's not a common thing, but there's no way to vet, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's no
Like, you don't
like,
know who that person is at
yeah.
all. And, like, people don't do that anymore at all. Like, going and my brother is 3 years younger than me, single in Miami. So, he tells me all the things. And he is he's like, yeah, like, this idea of, like, going up to someone randomly and be like, "Hey, what's up?" is unheard of. He does it. He's like, "I'm gonna step out of my comfort zone." He's like
For
the
now.
most introverted, like, I'm not going up to random people person.
Aw.
But he's like, "I'm doing this. I'm gonna go make some friends, if nothing else."
I mean, listen, that counts in making friends too. Like, we were talking about that ourselves, and just,
Absolutely.
what that is like, because it's not
Equally
that
rare.
dissimilar from dating, right? Especially as you
Absolutely.
get older, where there's not as much opportunity to, really get to know people. Like, you're not just in and out with people,
Mhm.
unless you're in a work environment, which neither of us are in an office, right? So, like, you're in a new city, you're entrepreneurs, where you're working sort of siloed in a way.
Yeah.
How do you make friends? You have to be intentional about it. The same way that the dude or the woman or the whomever, the person has to go up to the other person that they might be interested in the club,
Yeah.
real old school.
Well, and
You kind of have to do that.
yeah, and, like, that's partly why I was so excited to join FemForce, which is the thing that we met through. It's like this local photographer thing. You meet other entrepreneurs. And, like, I felt like, "Oh, what a great way to meet people." Like, that was literally it, right? Like, photos are great, but it's really cool that you get this added bonus. So, that was what actually had me sign up. And I realized after signing up, like, it's still hard. Like, people are uncomfortable. I'm freaking way uncomfortable with going up to random people and be like, "Hey, what's up?" You
Oh,
know,
I'm
like
not. I will go up to anybody and be like, "Hey, you want to be my friend?"
I have done that frequently, but I feel like I didn't get that vibe from you. I was like, I don't know. I'm scared shitless to like walk up to her.
I have heard that about myself too. But no, I'm actually somebody that will literally go up to anybody and I will say the words, "You want to be my friend?" Like, maybe not, but no, I'm no, I don't always give that energy. I'm very aware of that. I'm not sure why that is.
It's the New York vibe.
Maybe it
It's
is.
totally like I grew up in Jersey, so there's a vibe about East Coasters that is just like, don't fuck with me, don't come up to me. And I feel like I had that vibe for a long time. So this is not like a anti-you thing at
No, my
all.
God, no. But again, I've been hearing this pretty much my whole life, so it's probably a me thing. And you add on 20 years in Brooklyn and all of that stuff,
That'll
but
do it.
that'll probably do it. But no, I'm really, really intentional about meeting people and um opening conversation,
Yeah,
which I think is not that dissimilar from what people have to do or people
absolutely.
could be doing still, even in online dating
Yeah.
world, um with relationships.
I
Like,
wish people would honestly like l- y- to go up to random people and be able to like hear people's stories and like where did you come from? What
it's
brought you to this
fascinating.
moment? Like
Yeah,
I
how
love
did we
it.
both end up here, right? Like, we're
I
both here in this
absolutely
moment.
love
Me too.
it.
I'm fascinated by it, which is why, like, I was actually talking to my son about it the other day. Like, we all had to start over,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
I wanted to remind him that it wasn't just him who had to start over. Like,
Yeah.
he's a kid, so he's feeling it a little more acutely. And he's adjusting fine, but I was like, we all have had to leave our friends
Yeah.
behind,
Yeah.
what we've known behind.
Absolutely.
And I was like, aside, we don't have school to go to make friends. Like, where do we go to make friends? Right. I never thought about that. And I'm like, of course you didn't. You're 12.
Yeah.
Why would you be thinking about where mom is going to go make friends, right? But yeah, you have to, like, again, put that fear aside, find the courage, especially if you're not naturally extroverted or whatever. But look at the connections that are possible, that are available, that you can make when you do that. Right. And I still believe that's possible for dating. Yeah. And I still believe that's possible for relationships, like in an organic way where it's like, it doesn't have to be weird or gross. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be like,
you don't need to pick a line.
Like, you don't have to say one of them cheesy lines, drop the line, like leave that at home. Or ask ChatGPT. They probably got something better for you.
Hey, ChatGPT, tell me how to introduce myself to this hot
like
girl.
Some 2024 lines. But it's the same. Like, I feel like sometimes I gotta do that with friends, right? Where you're like, you know, just to. But you know what I also have found is that when you break the ice or approach the person, they want it too. Yeah. They too are looking for the same thing. They too are looking to expand their network, to find more friends. Mm-hmm. People are siloed, people are lonely, people are looking for new experiences and new engagement. And I truly believe that, like, more of us, if more of us did it, if more of us just found the little ounce of, courage that it takes, there's just going to be so much deeper connection, because I think everyone's craving it. I really do. Yeah. That doesn't go away just because you get older.
No, I think it gets more intense. At least, yeah. I'm curious if you think there's a difference between men and women, but I also feel like it gets that gap of, oh my God, how do I make friends now, gets bigger as we grow older,
I think
right?
So too, yeah.
There are some people who are blessed to have the experience of, like, oh, I live on the street that I grew up in and I'm still with all of my friends, and I don't know who has that experience
I'm like
anymore.
blessed to have that experience. I'm like, I wouldn't call that blessed.
Well,
like, in a way, I get it.
In a way, I feel like, like when I was a child or a teenager, like I had this group of girlfriends and we were so tight. And we were like, oh, we're all going to buy houses on the same block and we're going to grow our kids together and like go over to each other's houses, and like this whole vision that is nowhere near where I am now, right? Like I barely talk to 3 out of the 4 others of them, right? So it's like people grow differently, things evolve, whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like so many women at least, I don't know about men, but women have told me, like, oh, I can't, how do you make friends? Like, how are you making friends in these cities that you're in? And I'm like, well, I don't know, like go to the farmer's market or go to this photo shoot thing or whatever.
Yeah,
like find the event.
I will say it gets harder, when you have children and you're caught up with your kids. But at the same time, it can be easier. I've, now that I have a 12-year-old and a 4-year-old, like completely different life stages, I recognize how much easier it is to make friends actually with
people that have kids.
Yeah. Because you're at the birthday party together. You are actually picking up and dropping off. Like with my son, I don't pick him up or drop him off. He takes the bus. There's no real access at school. Like, how am I meeting his friends or his friends' parents? Like, there's and that's concerning to me, because like I kind of need to know who your friends are at this age, more importantly. Meanwhile, with 7, with my 4-year-old, it's like parents, birthday.
Totally.
Got 2
you
birthday
go to
parties
all the
on
birthday
Saturday.
parties.
Come on, like honestly, on one day. Come on, like, she got a morning one and an afternoon.
Oh my God!
Please.
Oh my God! Do you like going to them, or do you?
I love it.
You love it.
I love
it. You're an extrovert by nature.
I am absolutely not an
really
by nature.
Tell me more. What? I would not. I would not think you were an introvert.
1000% not.
You're ambivert?
I'm an ambivert that's very good at expressing myself as an extrovert, but I grew up very introverted, very shy, very insular. Um, we will dive into that, I'm sure, one day. But I had a really tough childhood, a really tough childhood. I was skipped 1.5 grades. And so I was very little, very young, in very tough environments. I was made fun. Oh, no, I was. This is a product of practice.
Yeah.
And it's a product of really leaning into who I really am and not allowing all of that stuff to suppress me, right? But naturally, no, I'm not really extroverted. I would think that you're an extrovert.
Yeah, I'm the same as you actually. So I'm an ambivert that can do extrovert really well. And I like it, but I hate small talk.
Oh, I
Like
love small
literally hate
talk,
small talk.
I like small
Like it makes me cringe.
Yeah, Ty's like that too. That's interesting.
I just
What
want to
about it
go
don't you
deep.
like?
I want to go deep. Like
Yeah, but not everybody's ready to go deep or capable of going deep or interested in going deep, which I guess that means that you don't want to talk to that person, right? Yeah.
Bingo.
I get it. However, I have found I think that one of my greatest gifts is being able to talk to anybody about anything. And I've claimed that and recognized that. It's one of my greatest gifts. And I've taken it for granted or thought it wasn't that important until I realized how important it is. Because I will find anything to talk to you about. And a lot of times that requires small talk, but I will learn something in those, in those exchanges still, even through the small talk, even if it's like, wow, this person is only capable of small talk, right? Because it shows me how there are different types of people, right? Like it every time you're still learning something, you're still able to like get something or find something or change your perspective or challenge yourself, even through those little small talk conversations. I know it feels like a waste of time.
It does. It does. And I think that's part of I guess it depends on what kind of small talk. And maybe honestly, like to bring it back, like maybe I'm just not good at it, right? Like, so yeah, you have a 5-year-old. Great. Yay. What school do they go to? And like literally, like birthday parties are the bane of my existence. I thought I was gonna love birthday parties, right? I'm like, ooh, I get to meet all these people and we're gonna be friends and I'm gonna make besties and we're gonna be friends with the kids are gonna be friends and we're gonna be friends. Like I had all these dreams, and then I went to a birthday party. I literally like, oh, my kid's 4 and now he has friends and we're going to birthday parties. Okay, we're doing this, and it has like it's okay once in a while. Like I can tolerate it, and I do it because like you do that shit for your kid, but yeah. But do I enjoy it?
Oh, I love it. I like look forward to the
No. I literally will be like, "Yo, you better be going to this party." I was at a birthday party on Saturday with this kid and his mom that I don't know very well. And her kid and my kid are like really besties. So I've heard about this kid all day. We haven't like super connected. Like she's cool. I've met her a couple of times. She's cool. We can talk, but it's not like it. It doesn't feel like, yo, you're my people. You know what I mean?
But the thing is, most people are not going to be your people, right? So that's another thing. You got to remove that expectation a little bit. When it happens, it's great.
I literally like was texting a friend who is also in this like little crew of boys that is growing up together. And I was like, yo, where the hell are you? She's like, what are you talking about? She totally forgot.
She forgot?
She forgot the birthday. And she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm like, dude, I was counting on you being here. Are you serious? And so I was like, I had a moment of like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to talk to all these people that are here.
So that's kind of what I was saying. Is that's kind of part of the process, right?
Yeah.
You have to move through the crowd to figure out who is going to be your people and who not, right?
That's fair.
The truth is the majority are not going to be, right?
No.
Like, and that's the case in life. We don't mesh with everybody. Like,
Yeah.
not everybody is
Yeah.
your crew, not everybody's your people. Some are great for just those encounters. You say what's up, you spend that hour, because kid birthday parties are only an hour and a half, then you gotta go. So so you spend that little time chatting with them, but inevitably you will find who connects.
Yeah.
And it won't be a lot of people. It'll be
Yeah.
one or two, maybe, parents or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's still a win.
Yeah.
That's still
fair.
a win. And that's the best kind of win when you're a parent.
And if I like reframe what I'm thinking from what you just said, I'm like, that's fair. Like, I have a lot of really good friends in 2 years because of my child.
Yeah.
Right? This kid like literally walks around the neighborhood like, hi, hi. I'm like, what's the mayor? What's up?
So cute. So yeah, they have an ability to connect us with people. Many of the people, there's been some parents, and I'm like, yeah, no, I don't really want to hang out with them. I know you want to hang out with their kid, but yeah, that's going to require me to hang out with them, and
Right.
I'm not going to do that.
Right.
So you have to also draw your boundaries too, right? Because there are just certain people that I'm not going to put my energy around,
Right.
or allow their energy around me,
Yeah.
and that's fine. That's
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Right. And cool.
Yeah,
your kid is cool.
super fair.
Y'all play at school.
Yeah. You don't need a play date with that child. You're good.
No. And I think that that's okay to teach our kids as well, right? Like, I have no problem saying no to my kids. It's not a problem for me. I think it's important for them to learn lessons through these types of life experiences. Like, some people we will only see in certain places. We don't have access to all people at all times. It's nice to be able to with the people we want, but there's other factors involved too. And I'm personally, this might be controversial for some people, but I personally am not willing to compromise or sacrifice myself for my child.
Yeah.
That's just not something I'm willing to do, because my energy matters, and my energy is going to affect my child's energy. And so for me, like, I'm talking about very disruptive energy. I'm not talking about I can't tolerate some like small talk for an hour. Of course I can. But there are some people where I'm like, no, and like, you guys move differently.
Feel right.
It doesn't. There's a particular parent that I'm thinking of right now where it's like, no, I don't know that our values or our principles or our ideals would align. So I don't know that I want that influence around my daughter in ways outside of school. She needs to know that this exists. It's fine. Your kid is fine. And it's important for us to be exposed to all of it, but I'm not going to invite it into my life.
Sure. Yeah.
That's the boundary.
That's totally fair. Awesome. Well, I feel like we've been chatting. We forgot that there are these things going.
Yeah, I don't think that I truly forgot. Actually,
I was really immersed, and then I was like, "Oh, right, we're still actually recording." So, well, thank you for another amazing conversation. I am very grateful.
I love this. We'll just keep talking.
We'll see y'all next week.
Yeah, maybe come back for more.
The Blindy and Brown Girls podcast, where we explore life, love, and the beautiful blend of cultures. I'm Aumatma, a holistic fertility doctor.
And I'm Tanya, an intercultural relationship coach. Join us for candid conversations where we share our unique perspectives and stories about growing up as children of immigrants, navigating mixed-race relationships and motherhood, entrepreneurship, money, and so much more.
Get ready for real and raw discussions as we dive into the intersections of our lives, relationships, and our diverse experiences.